So you want to main Isis, goddess of magic. First, ask yourself, why do you want to main Isis? A good Isis is pretty scary to deal with. She has an ult that can heal the whole team. Isis has high crowd control and AoE. But before you main Isis, it's good to know the cons of her. Without her abilities, she's a sitting duck. She doesn't have a good escape. Isis is a SMITE Egyptian Mage. SMITE has classified her as an average god, and I actually find her pretty average to pretty hard. I actually don't like Isis that much in Conquest. I find her much more fun in other game modes. If you're an experienced Isis player or you just love playing her, feel free to leave any of your own tips down in the comments below. In this guide, we're going to go through Isis as a mid in Conquest, going through her abilities, attack cancelling, combos, builds, counters, what not to do, and general combat tips. And you can easily apply this guide into other game modes as well. With that, let's go through her abilities. Isis's passive, Funeral Rites. Isis shares HP 5 and MP 5 with nearby allies. For every player death she witnesses, her aura gains an additional stack at a maximum of 10. At max stacks, Isis gains an additional 10% cooldown reduction. Additionally, Isis's final basic attack in her progression will have a wider radius. Pretty straightforward passive. The more deaths you see, the more benefits for you and your teammates. Isis' first ability, Wing Gust. Isis 1 is a line ability type. Isis flaps her wings, gaining increased movement speed with no backpedal penalty. This will send 4 Wing Gust in a line, dealing damage to all targets in her path. Isis is immune to roots and knockback effects while casting. This ability is her main damage and clear. It can also be used as an escape and a way to get to places faster. Remember that there is no backpedal penalty, so you can escape while hitting the enemy that is chasing you. You can also cancel this ability early. Used at the right predicted time, you can avoid roots and knockbacks. Isis' second ability, Spirit Ball. Isis 2 is a projectile ability type. Isis sends a ball of spirit energy. As the ball travels, it gains power up to 1.5 times at maximum range. At any time, you can detonate the ball, which will deal magical damage and stunning the enemy. The duration of the stun will increase at max range. While you do get more damage the more it travels, it can be pretty easy for the enemies to avoid. Do not be afraid to use this at close range as well. It can be pretty hard to use for maximum range. Isis' third ability, Dispel Magic. Isis 3 is a ground target ability type. Isis silences enemies at her target location. Enemies hit also lose some magical protections. Enemies are also slowed for a duration. Allies affected by Isis' passive gain magical protection during this time. This is your main CC. I would say that this ability is great to engage with as well. Isis' ultimate, Circle of Protection. Isis' ultimate is a ground target ability type. Isis plants her staff at her target location for 5 seconds. Allies within its radius take less damage. Any damage dealt within the radius charges up the staff. If Isis activates the staff again, it explodes. When it explodes, it deals damage to enemy gods in radius, and it heals ally gods in radius. This ultimate is great for team fights. If you're not the Isis but you see the ultimate, I recommend standing this while fighting enemies. Now let's get into the leveling priority for Isis abilities. For the first 5 levels, at level 1, her 1, at level 2, her 2, at level 3, her 1, at level 4, her 1 or 3 if you need it early, at level 5, her ultimate. For leveling priority, her first ability for increased damage, her second ability for increased damage, her ultimate for increased damage, healing, charge, scale, and damage reduction, her third ability for increased protections, debuffs, silences, and debuff duration. So basically, 1, 2, 4, 3. You can prioritize her third ability over her ultimate if you value the benefits of that ability more, or you could split the points into the 2 abilities. Attack cancelling on Isis. Attack cancelling allows for some extra damage. What it is basically when you use an ability right after you auto attack to reset the auto attack chain. This will give you consistent DPS instead of waiting for the attack animation to end. This is not mandatory to learn if you don't want to. For her first ability, her 1 on quick cast, as soon as you basic, use your first ability and then basic again when it ends. For her second ability, her 2 on quick cast, as soon as you basic, use her second ability and detonate when possible. This one is pretty hard to do because of detonation, but if you're good at multitasking, you'll get it. For her third ability, her 3 on quick cast, as soon as you use your basic, use your third ability and then use your basic again. Combos for Isis. Before we get into combos, a few pointers. Her ultimate can be pretty situational. It can be used to do damage to an enemy that just might get away, or for some clutch heals. I would recommend popping the ultimate before the enemy gets out. Her second ability can be pretty hard to hit at maximum range, so if you find yourself missing that a lot, just do it when you're at a closer range. It can also be used really well to zone out enemies. For short combos, 2 and 1, 3 and 1, 3 and 2. For medium combos, 3, 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, 4, 2, 1. For full combos, 3, 4, 2, 1. Builds for Isis. Builds always depend on what kind of enemies you're up against. My builds are just a general guideline. I recommend adjusting the build to your game accordingly. Isis is pretty flexible with builds and items. For a damage mid build, Book of Thoth or Warlock Sash if you want more health, Shoes of Focus if you want cooldown, or Shoes of the Magi for early pen, Bancroft's Talon, Spear of Desolation or Obsidian Shard, Ethereal Staff for more health, Soul Reaver for more damage, or Divine Ruin if you need anti-heal, Book of the Dead if you picked up Book of Thoth or an item choice situational item. You can also pick up Chronos Pendant if you want more cooldown as well. For relics, Isis usually picks up beads and Aegis Amulet. Counters of Isis. Literally having her abilities on cooldown. Isis doesn't do much and can't really escape from anything. Enemy guards sticking on her with her abilities on cooldown. Beads and Magi's Cloak counter her third ability. Isis somewhat escapes is very predictable. Her first ability is super easy to interrupt with CC. Isis does not handle ganks very well. What not to do as Isis. Do not outposition yourself. It's very important to position well as Isis. Do not go up without wards or if you don't know where the enemies are. Isis is super easy to kill. Tips for Isis. Keep in mind that Isis is a risky mage to play, so a big tip is to adapt to her playstyle. Remember that with her first ability, she has no backpedal penalty. You can escape while hitting the enemy who is chasing you. Isis dies super easily. If you find yourself dying a lot, just play safe from a distance. Isis can do a lot from the backline. Her abilities can be hard to hit sometimes from a distance. Just keep practicing and you'll get it. Remember that you and your allies gain benefits from standing in her ultimate. Hitting enemies in the ultimate will increase these benefits. Try and have a teammate CC enemies in your ultimate. That way you can get more out of it when damaging them. You can easily use this ultimate as a clutch heal or finish off an enemy. Just pop it as soon as you drop it. Your second ability can be used to zone out enemies. If from a distance, they will generally be focused on avoiding it. Your second ability and first ability go through walls. You can use them to surprise enemies who are going for mid camps, for example. Your ultimate is fantastic if you can place it perfectly into a team fight. It can definitely give your team an advantage. If you're in danger, put your ultimate on top of you and stay in it. Enemies will generally avoid being in it. This can buy you time and give you a massive heal. And that is all for the Isis guide. A huge thank you to Azure Justice for bringing us this Isis guide. If you'd like to request a god guide, there is a Ko-fi link in the description box down below. I would like to quickly add that I really do think Isis works better in other game modes like Assault, Arena, Joust, etc. I just don't think she's that great in Conquest because she's pretty easy to focus. But that is just my experience and my opinion, and of course if you have a different one, let me know in the comments down below. Just to let you guys know, I'll be streaming at twitch.tv/SuperTeeds. I'll be streaming Smite, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and Pokemon Let's Go. Any comments and likes would be super rad. Clicking the bell would really help me out if you haven't already. Also let me know down in the comments on which god you would like to main next or which guide you would like to see. I'll catch you for the next one. Bye!